So, new video style for me. Hi, my name is Darren. I'm a dad, airline pilot, husband of a scientist. I'm going to start my first 3-day trip as a fully fledged 777 pilot out of the training center. I am the relief pilot for this trip to London, and this is a trip I expect to do over summer many, many times. Being an FO is possible. I'll probably be an FB or relief pilot. This is a trip I didn't want. There were 3 trips open today. One LA overnight deadhead back princess trip, I call it. An earlier London trip has already been in the air now for 3 hours. That's at 3:15 or 3 something p.m. I wanted that one. It had a longer overnight, and it was a 777-300 both ways. This one has a 7:55 sign in. It's currently just 6:47. I'm early because that's how we are here. But it has a 20-hour overnight, a 300 there, a 200 back. Doesn't really mean much to me. I just like the bunks more on the 300 and better times, in my opinion. There is a later flight to London. That one's already filled. I'm glad I didn't get that one. But follow along if you want to on this 3-day trip. It'll be a new shooting style for me. We'll see how much I can include and how much I can't include. Follow along, subscribe if you want. All right, let's go.
In my previous life, I drove a school bus. These buses are horrible. DFW Airport makes the most money of any airport in the country, and they have this little storage space for us to put our bags. Right now, it's fine. I'm by myself. It's late in the evening. Normally, it's crap. Anyways, got to the airport. I got random in KCM, so I had to go through normal TSA security. It is what it is. 777-300, 10-year-old airplane, GE 90 engines, large, 304 seats, and we were nearly full going on the way there. Now, this is a flight plan that is similar to mine, not the real one. Flight 13, DFW to London, alternate of Manchester. Now, we need 163,000 pounds of fuel for our mid takeoff. Our release fuel is 164.5, a little bit more. In reality, we have more than that of a split, but this is a sample flight plan. This is what I'm looking at. We're going to arrive at 20,000 pounds of fuel. That's 2 hours and 3 minutes worth of fuel. We're burning 134 on the way there. And then you can see all the various fuel amounts we have there. This is very similar to what I look at. And DFW, we're only having about 20 minutes to taxi fuel, which is about average. Now, our flight plan today is right on the money. 8 hours, 45 minutes, gate to gate. Sometimes you have a flight that leaves late but arrives early because the flight plan was less than the scheduled plan. Again, we make these schedules months in advance. Anyways, this is my block of my actual flight plan that's filed with all the agencies. We're doing the NAT Track S. Every day that the tracks, they change. Gander makes all the tracks. How do I know what's on the track? Great question, Darren. So these are all my waypoints, and there's lots of data here, but this is similar to what I look at. But scrolling it down, I'll see all of the various tracks for this day and what they're valid for. Again, we're on track S as in Sierra. I'll get there in a second. And there you can see all the tracks. So S as in Sierra, we're going to Jupy, and then that is lat long, north 49, west 50, or west 50, yeah. And then all the different latitude, longitude waypoints. We end that doggle over the Brexit. That is the Sierra track. You see all the Tango Uniform and Victor tracks as well. Those are valid for levels 340 to 400, sorry. Nothing westbound. And this is a sample of a track that they make every single day for flights over the Atlantic Ocean. Well, that's the paperwork, the actual flight plan in our JEP FD Pro. This is what it looks like. Again, it's all the waypoints going all the way over to our oceanic entry point, which is right past the Jupy intersection. And then from that point on, until we get to the exit of the oceanic portion, it is lat longs. Every day, these waypoints will change based on how Gander makes the tracks. We get to the fixed Brexit, that's our exit. We go over Ireland into the UK, and we are on this Zurich arrival into the London area. But before that, we have to leave Dallas, right? And on our departure out of Dallas, with the Triton 4 departure, again, it's common to have climbing restrictions. Here is J-Girl above 5,000 feet. We have manuals, and we can use our FMS to estimate if we'll make that restriction or not. If it's really hot and really heavy, we might not be able to. We tell ATC it's not that big of a deal. Let's give us a heading and altitude versus the RNAV departure. As far as the arrival over in London, it's the Zurich arrival. It's very basic. It ends at the OCK VOR. You're like, well, that's not the airport. London, you always end in a hold. That's my experience so far. Then they have depictions here how you go from the hole to the runway depending on which runway you're landing at. And it is a continuous descent and arrival. They don't want you leveling off because they don't want the noise to people down below. Well, we boarded up the airplane, and the captain was a new captain. He's a previous long-term FO on the 777. The FO been on the plane 2 years. But nice flight over there. She wasn't very talkative, the FO, on the way there. Talked to the captain quite a bit because, again, I sat in the captain seat and the FO seat. Got to gate 336, and unfortunately, the jet bridge was broken. So we had to deplane the entire 300-plus passengers off stairs. One set of stairs. Then we got on the crew van, and we got a tour of the airport. One thing I like about London, there's lots of heavies there. It is a plane spotter's like dream. So many heavy aircraft as we go by. Delta, Virgin, British Airways, tons, many I don't ever see, except for in London because they don't serve the United States. But long ride over, cleared customs, got to the hotel. As you can see, it is a very rainy day in London, but I wasn't gonna let that spoil me, right? I could easily stay in the hotel room, but what fun is that? So I thought about taking a nap because you got to the hotel at 2, but I'm like, if I take a nap, I'm not gonna sleep. But thankfully, I did debrief this, so let's go to my debrief real quick.
So it took 2 hours to go from the airplane to the hotel, from block in to the hotel. That was pretty excessive. As far as my first trip on as a relief pilot on reserve, it went pretty well. I didn't, I was really stressed out about being a relief pilot because as a FO on IOE, I'm trained as an FO. But for the relief pilot duties, I was kind of watch and kind of talk to the guys that were doing my relief pilot duties, except I couldn't talk to them very much because they were paired together. There's an FB and an FC. And so they were up on the flight deck for takeoff and landing. But then the rest of the time we were separated. We were on breaks. So I didn't get that much advice from them, really. So I kind of just had to wing it. Got to the airplane early with the FO, and she did the cockpit pre-flight from seats forward. I did it from seats back. And then I did the outside pre-flight of the airplane, and I made the bunks for the crew rest area. It worked pretty well. Pushed out on time, and I took the first break because that's what the FB does. The FB takes the very first break. That's just how it's designed. So we took off, and then once we climbed up a little bit, we got our fuel record log with all our times on it. I opened the app, quickly made our rest schedule, and said, "All right, guys, see ya." And I went up to the bunk, and that's when the turbulence started. Yeah. Didn't get a lot of sleep, but it goes early, right? We left at 8:55, I think. So I was going to bed about 9:30-ish. I rested enough. I had a 4-hour nap before I went to the airport today because I knew I would not be able to sleep on the first break. Came up from my break, sat in the captain's seat, and I sat in the flight deck for the rest of the whole flight. It was fine. Very smooth crossing over the Atlantic Ocean. The sun started rising about an hour into when I was in the captain's seat. And then by the time the FO left, the sun was fully up. So that helped a lot, staying awake. But yeah. And then I sat in the FO seat, captain came back, talked to him for a while, and then we got closer to London, and FO came back. I had some meals in between. Standard holding in London, like normal. And that's it. This is a very short overnight. It was 20 hours, but we were delayed, so now it's like 19 hours, but then, whatever. But I'm excited now that I'm going to stay awake. It is 2:41 in the afternoon, and if I go to bed now, I will not sleep tonight. So I'm going to go find some coffee and explore London a bit. Until the next part of the video. All right.
So you may or may not know this, but I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, and I took this opportunity to go to the Black Dog Bar. Why? Because it's in a song. Getting around London is super easy. Years ago, you'd have to go to a foreign country and get their local currency out, but it's 2024. I don't get local currency out anymore, ever. I use my phone. So I just tap my phone to get on any bus or any tube and get around the city. Now, I spent $9 on this day. I took one bus and several trains, tubes anyway. The Black Dog Bar, very good food. It was very busy with lots of Taylor Swift fans there. I could tell because some people looked really out of place. I didn't because they assumed I'm just some old man eating at a bar, but no, I was a Swiftie in secret. Again, the meal was fine. They have a pretty Interesting menu, very random items on the menu, but they all looked really good and pretty inexpensive anyway. But once I had done my meal, I went outside and I walked a bit because I needed to get my steps in. And I walked along the river, and then I started thinking about my flight the next day. Because again, and here we are about 5 in the evening, and I had a 7:30 van, I think. So I'm getting really tired. And I figured I should probably go to sleep soon and get ready for the next day. And so what I do to prep for the next day is I take a shower the night before, I pack up my bag the night before, and I make multiple alarms, even though we get a wake-up call an hour prior, just to make sure I don't miss my van time. Next day, 777-200, 23 years old, Rolls-Royce engines with 273 seats. We were nowhere near full. It was a great day in non-rev, but there was only like maybe 3 non-revs on board. Anyways, cleared security, cleared customs, and we're driven straight to our airplane. It is a very different experience being driven right to your airplane versus having to do the normal drop off at the curb of the airport and then go to the airplane. I'll bore you with the flight plan on the way back. It's just the reverse. Lat longs across the Atlantic. There are no tracks, so we just had random waypoints. I don't know why they don't have westbound tracks, but they don't, at least not for daytime anyway. London Airport, they have lots of named holding points around the airport, like Oster, Horka, Vikas, Dasso. That's not something we have in the United States as far as I'm aware of. So they'll clear you to hold at Oster, at Horka. And you just kind of have to know those are there. I know because we discussed it at the gate. But we got held at Point Horka, and they had multiple aircraft on the runway at the same time. They have intersection departures down the runway, and people lined up. They had 3 planes on the runway at one time, all set up for departure. We had the Compton for departure, take off, big right turn, and head westbound. FO took the leg on the way back, and it's got her current on her landings. Again, it's a long flight. I was the FB, so once we got up, I made the schedule again, and I went to bed. I did sleep in the bunk, and I slept pretty good. I had about a 2-hour nap, I believe, on the way back. So for the flight back, it was pretty uneventful. Took off, of course, and then once we got my fuel slip out, I made the break plan. We had about a 3-hour break per person on the way back. Headed back to the bunk, and I slept for a good 2 hours on the way back. Again, it helps that it was like 1 a.m. Dallas time. I had no coffee, so I was fully alert, but slightly tired, right? So I can go to bed right away. Slept, woke up, and then I sat in the captain seat again, sat in the FO seat again, and then I was up in the flight deck for 6 hours of the 10-hour flight-ish. So the first 20 minutes, last 40 minutes, we were all up there, whatever. But yeah, it was kind of interesting having 2 FOs at the very up in the front of the airplane. We did have to do a little bit of deviating around some weather around Kentucky. Long line of weather. Of course, if you're an American right now, you know we've had some crazy weather going on. So we had to deviate. We had about a 50-mile gap. We could just go between these 2 giant thunderstorms. It was bumpy, but totally safe. Got into the Dallas area, and the FO and I were playing strategically to get the west side of the airport in Dallas, because if you land on the west side of the airport, if you arrive on the west side of the airport, you'll probably land on the west side of the airport, and that can save a 20-minute taxi easy. And it worked out for us. Now, we did have to fly maybe about 5 or 8 minutes extra to get to the west side, but it's still shorter than the taxi was. The taxi in was like maybe 3 minutes long. And that was the end of the trip. Pretty easy overall. I got home. I wasn't exhausted. And I think it's because I had so much sleep over the trip. So I got home, I was tired but not exhausted, and I was able to stay awake till right around 9 o'clock at night, and then I finally conked out. Took me about a day and a half to recover, and yeah, I'm sure I'll be going to London here again now, my next reserve stint. But before that, pilot pay is very complicated. I'm on reserve, so I have a 73-hour guarantee. I get that money whether I fly or not, but I have 19 hours and 47 minutes toward that guarantee. You can see my hourly rate, my per diem, and we have a thing here for an international override. Long video. Have a great day, and thank you for stopping by.